Hi, guys. Welcome to this week's episode of Global News Review. My name is Ola, and basically, on this channel, every week we talk about global news, African and Nigerian news, and how it affects your pockets. So, if this is something that you know you need to understand more, why? Because you are in an environment, I need to understand the things that influence you and your pocket, then stick around and subscribe and hit the notification button, and you will be glad you did so. Also share with a friend. Now let's jump into it, right? So in the global space, there was some very interesting news out of the United States. Basically, Nvidia and AMD have agreed with the United States government to pay 15% to pay some kind of tax, which amounts to about 15% of their sales of some specific products to China. Now, what's the backstory, right? The backstory really is that there was a time in 2023 when it was like a blanket or it's a security risk. We can't afford to be selling our chips to China anymore. Stop it. So in a bid to avoid that, Nvidia created a particular chip, and then AMD also did the same, and they were like scaling under the radar type thing. Now, fast forward to April, and Uncle Trump comes in and says, no, not happening, shut it down. Now, this is now like let's meet in the middle. And the middle ground here is that they're going to have to be paying 15% of their revenue to the government. Now, it's quite interesting. It's almost unheard of, because if the reason why you said we have to shut it down is a national security issue, how does charging 15% solve that security issue? That's all we can say. And then on the flip side, there's some conversation around the fact that this sounds like export tax, right? Which the U.S. Constitution frowns against, right? So the question is, who is really driving this conversation and these negotiations and making this deals? Because it's quite interesting. Now, on the flip side, also for China, it's like, why are you disincentivizing people from exporting to me? Let's fight. So what am I highlighting here? Like, it's one of those things where, as you grow as a business, understand that your engagement becomes political, right? And beyond just you and the market that you want to sell, you also have to look into the economy. So before you get there, start building your understanding of the markets, how they work, understanding of the economy, because it matters. It actually matters. Now, the next news out of the global space, let me see, is that India ditches Russia for Nigeria in a major supply shakeup. Now, this is around oil. Now, the interesting thing is that, I mean, maybe not interesting, the fact around oil is that it's really a case of anywhere belle face. For those that are not Nigerians, I may not understand. It's more of saying that regardless of whatever we do, the game is the game, right? The game is always be the game. So if your pricing is not good for me, if it doesn't favor me, I'll move somewhere else, literally. And so that's what's happening with India, where India is saying, okay, go ahead. Russia was working for me before it, but it ain't working anymore. Let's go to Nigeria. But then the fun fact is that as India is importing oil from Nigeria, Dangote is also importing from somewhere else, right? Like, it's almost like, guys, why don't you talk to yourselves? Like, if you have crude oil, if Dangote needs crude oil, talk to yourselves locally. But it's almost like contracts have been signed. That's literally what's happening. However, for us, as passerbyers watching and trying to understand the markets, it just goes to show that if you as a business person can position yourself effectively, eventually, as long as you're attractive, somebody will come your way, whether or not whether or not it makes whether or not they have like other ties, right? Because there's a whole BRICS thing and India and stuff. So you'd assume, okay, that will keep them together. But no, it's literally a case of anywhere belle face. Make we dey go, right? Now, the thing also about it is that for investors, what we are seeing is that the Nigerian oil space is also changing, because on the fuel and on the crude side, international trade is happening more, which is good for everybody. Literally is. Moving on to Africa news. Yes, now Africa news I found very interesting. Now, African news is basically that the African Union is pushing for a redesign of the map of the world map as we know it. Now, what's the backstory? And for me personally, I was shocked when I found out. Apparently, Africa is bigger than the US. Africa is bigger than what are the countries? US, Europe, and is it China put together? Like, how does that feel to you as an African? Because I realized that I had to like in mind shift, like, wait, what? And just you feeling like, okay, I'm in one small part of the world when in actual fact, you are a massive, significant part of the world in terms of landmass and then in terms of population. So the question is, why is there this vibe of Africa being one random thing to decide? It's actually just media and positioning, right? So what is Africa Union fighting for? They are saying that no, that guys, this map that we have adopted is a map that has been in use since the 1500s. Like, and then what happened then was that that map was created for sailors and then countries that were close to the North Pole, because of the way it domes in, appeared to be bigger than countries that were in the equator. So a South America and an Africa looked smaller than a US and North American country or the higher part of Europe, simply because of that perception. But now we have Google Earth, we have all these things, and so we can't keep reinforcing that narrative that Africa is a small continent. The fact is that Africa is big. And I really love it because when I found out, it just was like, wait, what? Like really? Actually, Africa is bigger than North America in landmass. If you didn't know before now, please just tell me that I'm not the only one. But yes, what are we fighting for? So Africa Union is now saying that no, let's let the official map that everyone is going to reprint and print in their schools and blah blah blah. Let it be the true situation. Let Africa come to the position that it is in people's minds. Let that representation, like let everybody see that okay, this is a significant part of the world. Like you're not just on the side, right? If you understand. So I mean, big ups to African Union for pushing this what's it called campaign, right? Or supporting this campaign, and let's see how quickly the World Bank and United Nations will adopt this. Because once there's that adoption, then of course everyone will naturally align with it. I believe that it also helps the imaging, right, of and the mental positioning, and that's really just shows how powerful media is, right? And so, if you didn't know, if you're like me that you did not know how big the African continent was, please just drop in the comments so that I know that it's not just me. Now, the fun fact is that we actually have, and I mean, why this matters is that the way you see yourself impacts the way you position yourself, right? If we are so massive in terms of population and in terms of size, then we are a force, right? And so these things are the little things that impact how kids see themselves. These are little things that impact how even us as adults, African adults, like see ourselves, right? So it really does matter. And so for us, we interestingly have this case study of how Africans in diaspora were able to shift their asset base and asset classifications away from just real estate, right? Because the idea is that most people at least just have a house, and you find that so if you ask anyone, do you have assets? And the only thing they will lay claim to is their real estate property, but it's not liquid, right? So we did a case study of how three Africans actually created a broader portfolio, what they did, where what their situation was before, and how they transition, right? So if it's something that is interesting to you, the link will be in the description one, and then you can scan the barcode on the screen and it will work, right? And to take you to that and you can download it and you have it, it's all yours. Now, moving on to Nigerian news. Nigerian news is okay. Yes, the first one, FMDQ competing with NGX. Now, first of all, the question is, what is FMDQ? What is NGX? FMDQ is financial market dealers quotation, but that's what it is. That's the name. But what is it really? So it's a regulatory agency or regulatory body that it's a body that regulates fixed income and FX in Nigeria. So all our fixed income trades settled by the FMDQ, or most of our fixed income trades are settled by the FMDQ. Most of our all our FX, everything, all the reporting, everything goes to FMDQ. So they are very big. And then because of, if you don't know, the debt market in the world is massive, like is massive compared to the equities market. So the debt market, of course, so FMDQ makes more money because there's more activity in the debt market than in equity in terms of turnover, in terms of one tranche, how many people do you get? And debt also in Nigeria is more of a wholesale than a retail thing. So the sizes are significant. So of course, FMDQ makes like two times the money that Nigerian Stock Exchange does. Nigerian Stock Exchange being NGX. Now, what's happening? Even though you are the big boy, FMDQ is coming to say we are moving to the equity space. But my question is, what are they looking for? What are they looking for? Apart from just positioning, but wait, before we even go into what they are looking for, it's not new. So in the US, for example, there's Nasdaq and then there's New York Stock Exchange, and they work side by side. Most of the tech companies are on Nasdaq, but like you have like the older mature companies on New York Stock Exchange. I feel that that's literally what they are going to try to do. But there's also another one in Nigeria called the NASD. Now, no shade, but I just feel like it's the real competition will be between the NGX and the FMDQ because they'll be like rubbing shoulders. Nasdaq is the NASD is still coming. It's still on the way and all. Now, that being said, the question really is that what is FMDQ gaining for? Why am I asking that question? Because we know that there are issues. Whilst the NGX is growing, whilst the NGX is, we can see stock prices, valuation, blah, 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 improving. But the fact is that there are just a few companies that are driving the whole market. There's not that much activity. There are not that many options, right? Everybody's buying the same stocks. That's one. Number two, there are few listings. There are few companies that are legitimately coming to the exchange to say, I've grown, I've grown, I've grown, and now I'm coming to the exchange. And it's because the economy is a little distorted. So, and when I say distorted, I mean how really most of our young companies, startups that are evolving and they are growing, what you would find is that they are US owned. So you would find that one venture capitalist abroad came in, brought in USD. You can't tell me that I brought in USD, and then when I want to exit, you are telling me that I would exit to the Nigerian Stock Exchange when the currency has taken like a 500, 5%, 5x type loss in the past 4, 5 years, right? So logically, if a US venture capitalist person comes in to invest, when they want to exit, they will tell you to go and list in the US. So we might have massive companies here, but they're not listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange because Nigerian Stock Exchange will kill them, die. And not because of the exchange, but because of the economy. So the question is, where is FMDQ? Like, what is FMDQ's positioning going to be? We're curious to see because it had better not be that they're going to try to poach companies that are listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange to their own because that is not growth. Like that is literally not growth. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm waiting to see what their positioning will be because where they would have to go, there are two things. They'll have to go in terms of listings and then they'll have to go in terms of traffic, meaning people, the way you're already connected to the Nigerian Stock Exchange through your stockbroker and you can easily buy and sell, they have to set that up so that regular retail people, well, I want to hear their strategy because they may say they are wholesale. I don't know in terms of they might only want to serve like the pension funds, executing for the pension funds and stuff. I mean, I can see a case where they will do dual listing, meaning that a company GTB can be listed on both, right? And then a pension fund can just buy in block kind of thing. I can see how that can be their game because they don't play small. But I don't necessarily think that will be developing the market, right? I don't necessarily think that that'll be something that will be so whatever significantly positive for the markets, but yes, they would make money. So we just have to wait and see, right? What they plan to do. The last news is on the new insurance act. Let me even get the name because it's not the new insurance. The no, that's not what it's called. It's the let me look for the name online. It's called the Nigerian Insurance Industry Reform Act. So it's NIIR Act, right? So 2025, right? NIRA, NII, NIIR. RA 2025, right? That's a mouthful. But basically, what are they trying to do with this act? They're trying to strengthen the insurance industry in Nigeria. One of the key things that came out of that is that most insurance companies will need to recapitalize. So you see mergers, acquisitions, and all that. They put some timelines in terms of you must pay all claims by a certain time. They're just trying to strengthen the insurance industry. Why is this important? As much as we look at the insurance industry with disdain, I don't, but it can be very annoying as from an investor perspective because globally, after pensions, the next game is insurance. Now, in Nigeria, pension funds are not listed on the exchange. So the people that should be shining in that space should be the insurance companies. However, they've been sleeping and they've been sleeping for years. There was legit a time when I used to like I was like after pension, insurance is the next game, right? So every month I was buying some particular insurance stocks or more. At a point, I left that stockbroking account because what is the meaning of this, right? And it's so sad that it was the insurance companies themselves that they were fighting their own growth. Why? Because they were just comfortable with status quo. And then if you now think about the fact that a couple of years ago they now enforced this thing where you couldn't even negotiate your what's it called, your premium on, for example, car insurance. They put a minimum and they just left it dead. Same way the lawyers are coming to do their own now, but we are watching, right? The fact is that it did not necessarily improve service, it did not result in growth. They just went flat because somehow policy helped them to make more money without doing anything in value, right? But now this is coming to say, go and recapitalize, go and do interesting things, decide on where you want to position yourself and begin to do better. Of course, the exchange reflected this news. Stock prices went up. The fact is that eventually there'll be some mergers and acquisitions. You would have some stronger insurance company. It might be a long game. It might not be like something that will happen immediately, but you will see it in the stock market. So your job as an investor is to be saying which of these companies do I think would go through this and land clearly, right? And I think that's it. Any other thing, if you have any questions, thoughts, please drop in the comment section. We're always sure to like respond either actually in responding to the comments or in creating a video depending on your question. But I thought I trust this was useful. I seem like I'm talking very fast today. Oh, I forgot to mention we had our summer camp this week. It was draining and fulfilling at the same time. I must say it was draining. Thank you to all the parents that signed their kids up. It was engaging. We'll post as much of it as possible. We had the most amazing facilitators. And for me, on the last day, which was yesterday, we asked the participants, the youngies, feedback on a scale of 10. And everybody just started typing 10, 10, 10. I'm like, wow, wow, wow. I'd say big ups to myself and my team. And I'm just thanking God, right, that we were able to actually deliver and connect with them to a point where they themselves can see that they learned something and they have grown. So thank you to everyone that signed their kids up. If you don't know what we're talking about, check our description and sign up your young adults between the ages of 16 and 21. At least join the wait list. The next one is next year. For the ones that joined in this time, they would have like 1 year access, and we have check-ins and we have activities. They have access to the replays. Going to be a lot of fun for them, and we're looking forward to that experience and even learning and growing as a company. So yes, don't forget that you can't outsource your health and your finances. You always have to engage. No one can go to the gym on your behalf and you will be fit. No one can eat vegetables on your behalf and you'll be healthy. It is just the same way no one can help you with your finances better than you can. See you in the next video. Bye.